Hello everybody and welcome back to World of Warships Legends. My name is Spartan Elite 43 and tonight we are finishing our path to the Mogami, which can mean only one thing. It's time for the Mogami. So let's jump in and take a look at our commander. Azure Lane Atago is our commander with Nikolai Kuznetsov and Charles Madden as our inspiration. We also have Beyond Range, Arsonist, Punch Through, Fixated, and Refill Station as our perks. Look at our whatchamacallits. Anyway, equipment, that's the word I was looking for. Aiming Systems Mod 1. We're running Steering Gears Mod 2. Probably should be running Steering Gears Mod 3. Let's just double check what we've got. So our current concealment is 10.6. That's nice, but you could get that. Let's take that away, go with Steering Gears, and we could go with the maneuverability of having a 3.1 second rudder shift time, which would definitely come in handy on this particular ship, because you do not want to get shot by any battleships. It's guaranteed citadels, period. Doesn't matter where they hit you, it's a citadel. Anyway, 39,000, did we actually look at everything? Sorry. And then, of course, we have main battery mod 3 for the final perk as well. Now, if we look at our loadout, we're running the sonar for obvious reasons. We also run catapult fighters, and we have the repair party. We're running the victory camo. I thought that this was like permanent, but clearly it is not. Anyway, community contributor flag and stats. Survivability 39,100 hit points with a 16% torpedo damage reduction, which is pretty solid, especially for a cruiser. Artillery, you have 10 203mm guns that reach out to 17.6 kilometers. They reload in 12.1 seconds, which is the downside of this. It's just like these guns just don't have the DPM you need. 180-degree turn time is 28 seconds. So a lot better than they were, but still on the slower side of things. HE shell maximum damage is 3630 with a 25% chance of set fire because of that arsonist perk. Now, you rely on fires in this ship, period. I don't care what anybody says. If you get bad RNG for a match, you're just having a bad day, because you're not going to get crap for damage. AP shell damage is 5,076, but you very rarely use AP in this ship unless somebody's close range and giving you a broadside, whether it's a battleship or a cruiser or whatever. The penetration angles don't seem to be great on this thing, so we'll showcase some of that coming up. Secondaries, you have 127mm Type 89 Mod A1s. You have 8 of those that reach out to 5.2 kilometers and reload in 7.5 seconds. They fire HE with a maximum damage of 2100 and a 16% chance of set fires. Torpedo launchers, you have 16 torpedoes. Okay, you have 2 quad launchers on either side of the ship. But they have the worst freaking torpedo angles ever, so you're almost never using them unless of course you're kiting away, and then in which case you could use them. They have a range of 11 kilometers, which is nice. They have 17,233 maximum damage with a 1.5 kilometer torpedo detectability, and they do 60 knots, so not the fastest, not the slowest. AA defense, not very good either. 25mm Type 96 Mod 1s, you have 10 of those doing 18 damage per second, reaching out to 3.1 kilometers. Then you have the 25mm Type 96 Mod 1s, you have 8 of those doing 20 damage per second, reaching out to 3.1 kilometers. Then you have the 25mm Type 96 Mod 1 triple guns that you have 24 of that do 49 damage per second and reach out to 3.1 kilometers. And then you have your dual-purpose secondaries, the 127mm Type 89 Mod A1s. You have 8 of those doing 40 damage per second and reaching out to 5 kilometers. Maneuverability, maximum speed is only 34.5 knots. This is where a lot of people start getting into doing the agile builds with the other commander. Can't think of his name. Not Isiroko Yamamoto, but the other guy. And they usually just go for speed and agility. That's it. Because they rely solely on kiting. But we've got our turning circle with this build currently down to 3.1 seconds. In the video, you're not actually going to see that. You'll see the concealment rather than the steering gears, obviously. But anyway, let's move back here to concealment. We have 11.7 kilometers, which is still pretty good. It's not as good as when you run the concealment mod, but even without the concealment mod, it's pretty solid, 11.7 kilometers. Detectability by air is 7.4. Guaranteed is always 2. And 6.9 kilometer detectability while firing in smoke. Armor viewer. So, the armor on this thing is okay. It's 25 millimeters pretty much everywhere. You do have a little bit of a torpedo bulge that's going to help you as well. 25 millimeters, though, the problem with that is that everything 15 inches and above goes right through it. And like I said, this thing is literally a citadel anywhere it hits. It is the Tier 7 floating citadel of sadness. This thing gets citadeled from every direction. Doesn't matter where the shells hit. It's just going to be a citadel. So, assume that every battleship that shoots at you is going to be a citadel. Okay? So, you got to dodge them. Alright, if we get rid of that, and we come in, you can see our torpedo bulge is 12 millimeters of armor. Okay? And then, of course, you have, on top of that, you have the 20 millimeter, or 25 millimeters, the rest. Is it this one? There you go. 25 millimeters on the side. You also have the citadel armor, which is right there at the belt. Which shows from 65 to 140 millimeters. So it's actually 140 millimeters thick right here at the belt. Okay? But, again, the citadel is pretty much raised everywhere in the ship. Like, you've got one major section right at the center of the ship that's raised, and then everywhere else is right at the waterline and slightly above, depending on your turns. So, like I said, anywhere you get hit in this ship is a citadel, it seems like. So, you've got to avoid getting hit at all costs. Have to. Especially by battleships. Alright, let's look at the overview. Pyromania, above average chance for HE shells to cause fire. Superior HE damage. Sluggish aim. And Mogami. Mogami was built as a light cruiser whose characteristics would largely exceed those of her contemporary counterparts. She had good armor along with a powerful artillery and torpedo armament. During the course of her service, she was transformed into a heavy cruiser as intended in the original design. Did they just... Okay. So it was built as a light cruiser and then it was modernized into a heavy cruiser. She entered service in 1935 and there were 4 of them in the series. But with that being said, I mean, she's not a bad looking cruiser. I just hate the ship. I hate all of the Japanese cruisers for the most part. Like, I'm just not a big fan of them. Like, they are just absolutely awful to try to play. I don't know why anybody would put themselves through playing these. Yeah, you get the fire chance, and that can be fun. You can put up some big numbers if you're left alone and you're allowed to do what this thing is capable of doing. But more often than not, every time somebody gets a chance to shoot at you, they're going to shoot at you. And regardless of how you make a move, the fucking shells are going to find you and nuke you. Sorry for my language, but that's just the way it is. This game gets really, really obnoxious to play when you're in a very squishy ship like this. So, with that being said, let's get to the gameplay. Alrighty, so we're going to be on Two Brothers, and this map isn't necessarily the greatest for the Mogami to showcase its power. However, we are going to do a pretty good job of showcasing the ship, even though it's not going to be the highest damage game in the world. But it is going to showcase just how nasty this ship can be. Now, we're going to push off to the right side initially, and then we're going to be forced to turn around and come back, because our teammates, they do the thing that I can't stand. And I'll talk about that once we show it. But I get called immediately. Somebody in a Balti says to protect me, which just means that they recognize my name more often than not. Doesn't mean that people actually protect me. Doesn't mean anybody does anything any differently for my teams. Usually ends up with my team just absolutely crapping themselves and paying more attention to me than they're paying to the game. So, you know, it's kind of a double-edged sword there. But it is what it is. We're going to push off to the right side. You can see we have a Siegfried on the inside, and we have another cruiser behind me. And then we have a Gasconia. Now we're going to push, or is it a Champagne? I can't remember. I want to say it's Gascon though. But we're going to push off to the right side. We're going to initially think about it. You're going to see pretty early on their battleship gets spotted because they have a carrier and he's already spotted them. I'm already going to look at this Jean Bart. But we don't have the most range in the world, and you can see right here is where I'm like, no, I am not doing this right now. I refuse to be the middle ship in between two other cruisers and not able to maneuver my ship. Now, the Jean Bart throws his ship in reverse. We're going to get a shot at him. Peter Bag's out front. We're thinking about shooting at him next, but he's going to start to turn away. And because of the way that these shells tend to float, I'm not a real big fan of shooting at cruisers at long range because they can generally dodge them. But you can see I slow down, I let them guys pass, and then I start feeling pretty bad that this Gasconia in the back is getting picked on by the carrier. I put up my fighters to hope that I can potentially help them, but the fighters are nowhere near those enemy bombers, so the Gasconia is getting absolutely picked apart by that carrier. So I'm going to go back, I'm going to attempt to help him, you know, combine our AA plus my ability to drop fighters, and hopefully we'll be able to get, between the two of us, we'll be able to deal with these carrier planes. And that's going to work out pretty well for the team. And that's one thing that I will say that I do more than most people, especially in ships like this. Like, this ship is built to kite. It is the kitey cruiser of choice of all of those guys that do the border humping, the sitting at the back of the map, that aren't really doing anything other than chase and damage. This is the cruiser of choice. Well, this or the Otago. But anyway, that's what these are meant to do. I don't play them like that. I refuse to play all the way. Sorry about that, had to sneeze. I refuse to play all the way at the back of the map, shooting at 20 kilometers or, you know, using boosters to get myself to over 20 kilometers and firing and doing that. I refuse. It's just not a fun gameplay, or at least not in my opinion, it's not fun. We do take some hits here, luckily avoiding most of the Jean Bart's rounds. Now, we did get a double fire that salvo, and he's going to get the RNG of dreams and get double fired immediately again. So that's huge. That means that guy's going to burn for a long time. That never happens to me. Like, my RNG with fires is absolutely abysmal, even with this thing, and its ability to set fires is seemingly at will. Because of that 25% chance of setting fires, and it's always landing multiple rounds on targets. Now, we lose a Fletcher to their Kagero right off the bat, which is stupid in and of itself. If you ever in a Fletcher and you die to a Kagero, you should just stop playing the Fletcher. Just saying. Like, the only excuse for dying in a Fletcher versus a Kagero is that you didn't know that the Fletcher was there, and he snuck up on you while you were firing your guns in a smoke screen or something like that, and he torped you. That's like it. Other than that, like, if you ever lose in a Fletcher versus another destroyer, really any other destroyer other than legendaries, like, you just shouldn't be in the Fletcher, clearly. Because the Fletcher is the nastiest gunboat in the game that isn't legendary. It's ridiculous. Now, obviously, we've got one plane shot down now, and our AA is still going to work on some of the others. The Gascon has taken some torpedoes here. We're going to turn in and dodge those. We actually ended up with a triple fire on the Jean Bart, which he extinguishes just in time to keep us from getting an arsonist. Because, of course, he does. It's just the way it goes. You know, it's the true Spartan fashion. Got to leave people with just enough for somebody else to yoink. It's just the way it is. But we're going to push up. And now that Jean Bart is gone, there's nothing here to stop us. We're just going to roll straight in. I'm not afraid of a Wichita. I'm not afraid of the Peter Bag that was out here. I'm not afraid of the carrier. Like, there is nothing left on this side that I am afraid of in a 1v1 in this thing. Or in any cruiser, for that matter. I don't care what cruiser I'm in. I like my chances in a 1v1 versus other cruisers. Most cruiser players just don't know what they're doing when it comes to 1v1s. They just don't. They go broadside trying to get torps off or trying to get our rear guns involved, and you can Citadel them with impunity. And if you don't, I mean, at the end of the day, I've got a Mogami that has a 25% chance of setting fires, and the HE hits like a freaking Mack truck. So, I like my opportunity. You know, I like my chances. And we're going to push up. You can see the last known of the aircraft carrier for the enemy team, right in the center of the cap. His planes are being launched roughly from the exact same location, so I'm just assuming at this point that this man is still sitting right there. So we're going to charge into the cap, we're going to keep shooting at the Wichita as time allows, and then once we get ready to pop around the corner, we are going to switch over to armor piercing. I didn't test the HE versus the carrier, But I don't really think that I would be able, as we get a double fire on the Wichita, a little payback for him. He's used to setting everybody else on fire, not necessarily getting set on fire, but he gets a double fire, he immediately extinguishes it. Big surprise. We are getting a couple hits here and there, helping soften him up, get him out of the game a little bit faster, hopefully. And then we're going to get this carrier spotted at any moment. So we go ahead, switch over to the AP. We've got the front guns in location to do some damage here. We're just waiting for the shot. He's angled, and this is where we're going to showcase that the armor piercing of this isn't the greatest penetration angles. Now, the battleship behind me, he's been waiting for his opportunity to shoot this carrier the entire game. But you can see we shatter 2 rounds and we ricochet 2 rounds. Now he's turning out, which is actually making it easier for us to penetrate. And that's going to pay off for us as we get 3 full penetrations that time with the front guns. We hit him with the rear guns. His secondaries are actually going to do a little bit of damage to us. Nothing too crazy, but you can see it is pretty impressive to watch the secondaries of that thing as we get a Citadel finally. And again, we're going to go use the rear guns here, hit him again. And we bounced 2 rounds. Again, not the best penetration angles. Probably would have been better off using the HE, and we'd have got more damage. Now, as soon as we get ready to kill him, we go ahead and pop that damage con, so we're not going to get set on fire. And, yeah, we are narrowly able to avoid those torpedoes, just, you know, showcasing that this thing can be agile when it needs to be. It's actually not too bad. The only thing that I've had trouble with in this is just a battleship shooting at it. I get the RNG of nightmares when it comes to battleships shooting at these things. Like, every time I'm in this, every battleship, doesn't matter what it is, Tirpitz, Bismarck, whatever the worst battleship RNG you've ever seen is, I get the opposite of that. Every single one of them. Ooh, sneaking past. That would have been devastating. Don't want to be taking torpedoes if we don't have to. But we're going to get some nice, easy shooting, or plane shot down here because we're shooting down the enemy fighters that were left by the carrier. So we get a little bit of XP here. But either way, we're pushing across the cap. We're trying to put ourselves in position where we can shoot the enemy. There's a Gross first and a Baltimore left, but as you can see, we can't shoot over the island. Most cruisers would probably be able to lob this, but not this. The Mogami, probably the... I don't know, the Russians are supposed to have good ballistics, but yet they seem to be able to lob every island in the game regardless. So it's hard to tell. We're going to push up. We're going to try to get a shot around this island and try to focus this Balti down. He's already burning, so we're going to further insult that injury. And sure enough, we get a shot, and we look to have aimed it beautifully, but they just seem to hang in the air for too long, and he gets out of the way of them. So here, I'm thinking he's about to run aground. We kind of have one of those weird moments where you're trying to spread the shot out, but it doesn't matter. Yami takes him down, getting his high caliber, and that's when we see all these torpedoes coming in. Now, unfortunately, I make a mistake of slowing down a little bit, but it doesn't matter because we actually do get turned in enough to dodge all of these torpedoes, and then we can start unloading the shells onto the Gross first and getting him burning. You can see we're going to set a fire immediately. There it is. First hit, first fire. And then he's going to lose all of his hit points. And somebody else must have got a fire at the exact same time. And they're actually going to end up with the kill, which is just the way it goes for me. Everybody else gets the... Like, a Wichita. The Wichita's behind me. He gets a hit after me, gets a fire after me, and somehow gets the kill. Because reasons. But Destroyer here, I make the decision. Go ahead and leave the base. He is shooting me. Not sure how he's actually detecting me. He's in a smoke screen, and I guess we're inside that 6-kilometer range, so that makes sense. But we do get a good hit here. We do set him on fire. You can see he's not going to sit still anymore. He's going to keep backing up, and then I think he's going to go forward after I wait for the next shot. He does, and you can see he actually slowed down and was already changing direction. I should have anticipated him going forward there. Probably would have hit him again. But unfortunately, that ain't the way it goes. He manages to get his torpedoes reloaded. We do manage to dodge the first set, but the second set, he puts way out in left field and is going to catch me here. As we try to get this thing back along the course, I go ahead and start shooting at him, and I'm trying to turn back in, but we do take the one on the belt. A little bit of a reduction, but it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, we're still a cruiser. 16% is nothing. But unfortunately, Parsifal comes in to clean up our kill on the Destroyer. We do all the work. The team gets all the benefits. That's just the way it goes, right? But I think it's a pretty solid game. 100,000 damage, top of the leaderboard, 2,300 base. We did everything we're supposed to do, and we did a lot to help the team. So if you like what I'm doing, punch the like button, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, I will see you in the next video.